So looking at the example code, it's pretty simple. You have a setup function and a loop function. So the setup function is essentially something that's run at the very beginning, and the first and only line in there is serial.begin 9600, and luckily in the example code it tells us exactly what's happening. We're just initializing a serial communication at 9600 bits per second. Now the second function is the loop, and this gets looped over and over as it says, and essentially what you're doing, the first line that's actually saying anything is the sensor value, and saying the sensor value is going to be equal to the analog read of A0. So what that means is it's going to look at the analog pin A0, which you can find on your Arduino, and the analog value that's coming from A0 will be read as an input. So then a couple lines below, you have serial.print line sensor value, and that's really all there is to it. So you have that delay 1, and that just delays in between the reads, and that's just for the sake of stability. But what you'll find is that you end up getting exactly what we expect. And you can actually see the output, or I should say the input of the A0 pin by going over to Tools and then clicking on Serial Plotter. So the physical setup for using a potentiometer on the Arduino is really quite simple. It really only requires 3 wires. So for the purposes of this demonstration, you can essentially just plug one into, I'm putting a red one on one side, and that'll go into the 5 volt. I'm going to put a white one on the other side, and that one will end up going to the ground. And then this one, and that's what's allowing essentially electricity to flow through. And so this one right here, because this is going to be an analog signal, this is going to be essentially what's modulating the potentiometer signal. So what I'm going to do now is, if you look over here at my Arduino Uno, they essentially just need to be plugged in accordingly. So the way this code is written, the actual middle pin, which is the brown one for me, that's going to be plugged into A0. I'm plugging in the gray one into the ground, which is the 3rd pin over here, but it depends on your board. For the most part, they should be standard. And then the last one right here is the 5 volt, okay? And now that they're all plugged in, some of them came unplugged from my potentiometer, so I'll just re-plug those in. And then, once that gets in, one more. So you'll see that now, as we spin the potentiometer, just spinning it back and forth, that's it. We should see that our signal is also changing. So as you can see, when I start turning this clockwise and counterclockwise, you actually see that the value is changing up and down. All right, and so that's all you need to know to get started with the potentiometer.